In my video Alpha and Omega, I demonstrate how the numbers 33 for Jesus is Alpha and 22 Tau Omega are used to encode Edward de Vere's number 1740 within the first misnumbered pages of Shakespeare's first folio. There's a lot of Oxford and Francis Bacon references on those pages, and I'm going to be referring to that video and others I've done, so if you haven't seen them, the links are below. Here I'm going to offer solutions to all the misnumbered pages in the folio. I have the misnumbered or misprinted pages in order and by the categories they appear in: comedies, histories, and tragedies. Now with most of these, I have them listed as the page number they're supposed to be, followed by the page number they're printed as. Next in parentheses is their difference in value. For example, the difference between 50 and 58 is 8, and the difference between 86 and 88 is 2. There's also page numbers in pages that are missing, as well as page numbers that stop and pick up again later. Now I'm going to go through the list. The first two misprinted pages, 50, which should be 58, and 59, which should be 51. The difference between each of these is 8, so 8 and 8, or 88. 88, using the Latin alphabet repeated count, which is used throughout these codes, is equal to 4-letter T's, or FORTIS, a name reference to Edward de Vere discovered by Alexander Waugh. Next, on 20 occasions throughout the first folio, a page has been misnumbered by a value of 2. Again, the difference between 86 and 88 is 2, the same between 153 and 151. All the way to there in the tragedies, the difference between 282 and 280 is 2. So 20 times there's a difference of 2. There's a couple ways to interpret this. We can take 20 times 2 equaling 40, de Vere's number, and another example, the word FORTIS. Also, the 20th letter in Latin Gematria is V, so 2 V's would give us de Vere's signature, VV. Continuing down the list, the page number for 222 is missing, followed by the page 265, misnumbered as 273. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, and the difference between 265 and 273 is also 8. So 8 and 8, or 88, which is 4 T's with the repeated count. Again, we have a numerical pronunciation of the word FORTIS. Now into the histories. Pages 47 and 48 are missing. They're not misprinted, they're simply not there. Using Gematria, Vere, V-E-R-E, equals 47, and there's some acrostic information in the lines beginning on page 49, the page 47 is supposed to be on. Count 17 lines, we get the words 4T, 1740. Then start reading back up, F-B-A-C-O. The N comes from the letter U in R. In Latin, the letter U is a V. In Greek, a lowercase n is drawn like a V, so F-B-A-C-O-N. Then reading across, cousin at Windsor, and also the word to, T-W-O. So there's an Oxford Bacon code on what's supposed to be page 47, 47 equaling the letters for Vere. Next we get to page 100, and the printing kind of goes off the rails. There's an epilogue, and then we begin the life of Henry V on page 69. I took the last numbered page, 100, and subtracted the next numbered page, 69. 100 minus 69 equals 31, and 31 using the repeated count is HH. In the beginning of the first folio is a dedication where the initials HH are used to mean God or His Highness. An H is comprised of 2 letter T's on their sides. I go over this in my second video. So if one H is made up of 2 T's, then 2 H's are made up of 4 T's. Are these initials supposed to mean God and Vere? I bring this up because if we apply the Gematria to each initial, H is equal to 8, and HH is equal to 88. And then 88, now using the repeated count, is 4 T's or 40s. Next, there's page 232, and a couple pages later, page 79. 232 minus 79 is 153, which is a number pertaining to Edward de Vere that Alexander Waugh explains in his video, John Dee's Secret Patron Revealed. I also talk about it in my video, Alpha and Omega. Now when the pages start again at 79, they go to 80 and then stop. 79 plus 80 is 159. You can see how if the numbers continue with the repeated count, 159 equals 7 X's or 7 crosses. 7 is one of those holy numbers recognized all over the world, so 7 crosses likely has some religious meaning or significance. For example, traditionally there's 14 stages of the cross, but in accordance with the biblical account of the crucifixion, Jesus takes up his cross at the 7th stage, later referred to as the scriptural way of the cross. So the 7 crosses could be referring to a famous quote from Jesus that appears in the Gospels of Mark, Matthew, and Luke. "If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." If we count all the pages after 232, where the pages start to go blank, it's 30 pages. And then the pages start over at 1. So it's 30 pages total. 30 equals GG using the repeated count. I go over the meaning of GG in my previous video. It means God. Also in Greek and Hebrew, the letter L is equal to 30. The word L in Hebrew means God. Also, if we're talking about a secret group like the Freemasons being involved, GG could stand for God and Geometry. Then there's page 98, with the next page number being 109. The difference between 98 and 109 is 11. With Gematria, 11 is L. Again, in Hebrew, L means God. Then page 157 jumps to page 257, a difference of 100. A name that's commonly associated with 100 is Francis Bacon, and since I believe he worked with Ben Jonson on putting the folio together, I think he'd include this number somewhere in the pages. There's also the abbreviation for Edward de Vere equaling 100. And lastly, there's these pages. 279 and 259 have a difference of 20. 303 and 308 have a difference of 5. 308 is printed as 38, which is a difference of 270. And 379 and 389 have a difference of 10. The folio ends on what should be page 399. It's printed as 993, which is 399 reversed or read right to left, which is what I did with these last 4 numbers. I converted them with Gematria going backwards because of the reverse number on the last page. 10 is K, continuing using the repeated count, 270 is R. The count can be used this way. See, in the codes I've just gone over, this one's an actual word. The codes require knowledge of the repeated count to get the letters FORTIS and GG, for example. But if someone was familiar with basic Gematria, they could almost spell this word. Using 270 as a blind protects the word from anyone not familiar with or trained in use of the repeated count. So 270 is R, and then 5 is E, and 20 is V, K-R-E-V. So what does Krev mean? It's a Cornish word from the region of Cornwall in the UK, Krefa. It means strong. And strong in Latin is FORTIS. Interestingly, the first time Francis Bacon sat in Parliament was for Bosny, Cornwall, and he speaks very highly of the Cornishmen in his work, History of the Reign of King Henry VII. So is Krefa a word he could have known? During the reign of Elizabeth, there's correspondences with a colleague of Cecil's who went by the code number 40. He's unidentified, but Oxford was Cecil's brother-in-law. De Vere sometimes signed his name double V, with Gematria V equals 20, 2 V's equal 40. Using Latin Gematria, the letter T is equal to 19. 19 times 4 letter T's is 76. 76 also equals the letter values of O, X, F, O, R, D. Edward de Vere was the 17th Earl of Oxford. Oxford equaling 4 T's, so 1740. We can see where the name FORTIS comes from, because 4 T's has the same value as Oxford. It's interesting that the motto written on the coat of arms of the city of Oxford is Fortis est veritas, meaning the truth is strong. If we read it with Edward de Vere's name being Fortis, it says the truth is Vere. I just want to go over a few of the codes in the first folio again. With Gematria, Vere equals 47. In the Histories, page 47 is completely missing. And on what should be page 47, we have on the 17th line the letters 4T, so 1740. Continuing up acrostically, the word bacon. and further up the word to. Also connected to Bacon in 1740, there's the words cousin at Windsor. Bacon and de Vere were cousins. De Vere, D-E-V-E-R-E, equals 56. A few pages later, on page 56, the name Francis appears 33 times. With Gematria, Bacon, B-A-C-O-N, equals 33. Going back to the comedies, page 33, what I refer to as the alpha, the last 17 lines on the page starting from the turnover word pro at the bottom right. In Latin, pro, P-R-O, means for, F-O-R. Reading up acrostically, we have the letters T-I-S, so F-O-R-T-I-S, or FORTIS. Then F-B for Francis Bacon, E-A for et al, meaning and others. Then I am that I am. Only Edward de Vere and Shakespeare are known to have written those sacred words down during that time. I went over this in my video, Alpha and Omega, and I was one letter off on this next part. I had the phrase being for I am that I am, but the F in for is actually part of the following letters, RT. I was correct in that RT stands for Rosy Cross, a T being a cross, but the F stands for Fratris or Brothers. So it's FRT, Fratris Rosicrucis, or Brothers of the Rosy Cross. And then on the 17th line it ends like it begins with 4 T's, the same way the misnumbered pages of the first folio do. And on page 51-59, what I call the Omega page, there's more de Vere references and possibly Francis Bacon. Please see my video Alpha and Omega for a full explanation of all this. By simply using math and a repeated count Gematria, the misnumbered pages begin with 4 T's, and then add up to 40, which can possibly also be understood as 2 V's for de Vere. Then we get 4 T's again, followed by HH, which means God or His Highness, but can also be understood as 4 T's. Then there's 153, which has meaning pertaining to Edward de Vere, the Sonnets, and Jesus. Next are the 30 pages of Troilus and Cressida. 30 equals GG, which means God and Jesus, or possibly the Masonic God in geometry. Followed by L, which in Hebrew means God. Then there's 100, which I believe is a numerical signature for both Francis Bacon and Edward de Vere. References to them appear throughout the first folio. And lastly, there's the word Krev, Cornish for strong, which in Latin is FORTIS. So the codes begin and end with the same word. All this information was encoded and repeated in the Sonnets and First Folio and released by our Rosy Cross Brotherhood. Knowing that people like John Dee and Francis Bacon worked with codes and encryptions, I can't see all of it being a coincidence. Thank you for watching.